Spider-Man is an iconic character that is in all forms of media. But if you asked anyone what the worst story was, they would say One More Day. One More Day is the worst story, and for good reason, but for anyone who doesn't know why, I'm going to explain. One More Day, to some people, isn't actually that bad. There are stories like the Clone Saga that are considered worse, but I disagree. It's what One More Day represents that makes it such an atrocious story. If you don't know what One More Day was, basically in this time of comics, Peter Parker was forced to reveal his identity in the Civil War because he was on Iron Man's team. This led to Kingpin sending an assassin to shoot his Aunt May. As you expected, Peter won't take this very well, as the bullet was supposed to be for him, so he asks everyone. He beats up Iron Man a bit, because he still blames him for everything, and yeah, it's kind of his fault. Even Doctor Strange can't fix him. And on a side note, I don't understand why. They're the best sorcerers on the planet. Why can't they fix a bullet wound? And also, at the end, Peter eventually can't do anything, and the only person who can help him is the Devil Mephisto. But he has conditioned for Peter to erase all of his marriage with Mary Jane. They will still have memories together, but they just will never have married. And Peter will agree to this, but then his marriage with her is erased, and One More Day happens. The first reason why I hate this is that it alienates us from the writers. For years, it's felt like whenever I'm reading a Spider-Man comic that I'm in there, that it's connected and that they're listening. However, this changed when One More Day happened. It created a rift between the audience, and you felt like you didn't have any say in this because they just did it. They decided that it was okay to erase so many years of marriage. Peter and Mary Jane have been married ever since the 80s, which is huge. They even split up at one point, but they will always get back together. One More Day just creates the issue that now they're not married, and you just keep reading comics hoping maybe they'll get back together, but they never do, because for some reason they don't want Peter Parker to grow up, and I think I know why. They don't like change, because they like where Spider-Man can be with characters like Black Cat for a bit, he can be with other characters without having to worry about being stuck to Mary Jane. If he's married with Mary Jane, he can't do anything else because he's tied down, but still, it's like he was like that before. You had some of the best stories when he was married, like Spider-Man Blue. You had the final chapter. You had a lot of great stories. So I don't understand, but that is the first reason. Let me also explain before I get into the second reason that I don't mind the idea of Peter Parker giving up his happiness to save someone. Two of the best adaptations of One More Day actually work. The Marvel Spider-Man game, where Peter lets Aunt May die to save millions, is so much better, and also at the end of No Way Home, where he does break up with MJ, but he's doing it so that everyone else loses their memories instead of him. The problem with One More Day is Peter also forgets, so he doesn't get to live with the consequences. Spider-Man's entire character is about responsibility. He let the thief go. It's his responsibility. One More Day gets rid of all that. Peter doesn't have to suffer the consequences because he didn't remember. He doesn't have to face any sense of responsibility. But the main point I've been building up to is that Aunt May always dies. She always gets sick. And in the Clone Saga, one of the worst Spider-Man runs, there was a good issue where Aunt May actually dies. Of course, they retcon that later, saying that it was an actress that Green Goblin hired, but still, the point is that in that one, Peter accepted it. Aunt May said that she had lived a good life, a long life, and that this was her time. And they moved forward. They accepted May's death, which is what I like about this and why One More Day drags it down. It's not really Aunt May's fault, but at the same time, she is a frail character. She always dies. Also, I think if Aunt May were alive, she would have told Peter to let her die and be happy. Mary Jane even points this out, that Aunt May's lived a good life, a long life. What if this is her time? Peter is kind of the villain in this, because he says that if Aunt May died, he would break in two. So Mary Jane has to accept it, or Peter will just be miserable for his life. So Aunt May is also a problem. Another thing is, I think what they were going for is Mephisto is supposed to be the main problem. Like, he would take the blame. Because the villain's supposed to be the person you hate, not the hero. But it has the opposite effect, as Mephisto isn't really doing anything wrong. In the same story arc, Mephisto is disguised as a little girl, and he points out that Peter Parker is selfish, that he always views his needs above other people, and this is a somewhat accurate description. Mary Jane doesn't want this. She wants to be with Peter. They can move forward, create new stories, but Peter just wants Aunt May to be alive for the past. You could argue this is responsibility, as he wants her life to be safe, but he didn't shoot the bullet. It's not really his fault, and Aunt May urged him to unmask himself in Civil War. She holds responsibility too. And if she were alive, she would say the same thing. And it also doesn't help that Peter will just be saying that they have to do it. You could argue that Mary Jane was the one who told Peter to do it, but I disagree. At the beginning of the story, Mary Jane says let's not do it, because, yeah. A big example of them being married and it making a good story is Kraven's Last Hunt. Kraven dresses up as Spider-Man and kills a bunch of people, and right away, Mary Jane knows that's not him. She is always at home worrying about her husband's safety and never really appreciated the idea of him being Spider-Man, and this adds stakes. This shows us relatability. It's happened to us time and time again, worrying about our loved ones. They're not in love, but MJ still worrying about him doesn't make any sense. Him making a deal with the devil, it's not relatable. It's not Spider-Man. Spider-Man is normally grounded, and magic doesn't normally work in good stories. The reason we relate more with a married Spider-Man is because it shows a resolution to a character arc. It's like what humans do. They grow, evolve, and change. Peter has just regressed his entire character, as just now he doesn't marry. And I have no idea why they did this, except maybe the reason to get Joe Quesada, the editor, to get Spider-Man back to his roots. This is a common theme where they don't let Peter Parker grow up because they want him to relate to younger audiences. But at this point, most people see the movies, and it looks like the movies are leaning towards older Peter Parkers. Part of life is that people grow up. People die, and Peter just cannot accept this. He can't accept that Aunt May's going to die because of something that he did. Which I guess makes sense, because when the last time he thought she died, he didn't really do anything. She had a heart attack, and eventually it was too much. Which is why Peter is so angry. But I feel like it's for a bigger reason. For a lot of Spider-Man stories, when Peter has lost people, it's for a bigger purpose. When Harry Osborn died, it hurt Peter, but he got over it. When Gwen died, he didn't feel responsible. There was an arc. In this, we know that Peter's destined to lose. Peter gets what he wants, so there is no character arc. We don't get anything out of it. Peter gets older. We're going to have to accept that. That's life. People die. A large part of Spider-Man is the parallels between him and his villains. They're similar but different. They will call Peter selfish, and he finds a way to prove them wrong, to rise above the limitations. Sometimes he'll admit they're right, but when Mephisto calls Peter selfish, there's no challenging of opinions. This never gets brought up again, because Peter has to be selfish for the story to work. So Mephisto has to be right. We don't get any resolution. It just ends with Aunt May alive. Mary Jane leaves Peter, even though she promised to be back together with him. So Mephisto wins. And that doesn't give us a satisfying conclusion. Before we move on to the final topic, I do think that a huge problem that Spider-Man suffers from now is that he isn't relatable anymore. Peter Parker is one of the most relatable guys we knew ever since the late 60s, which were probably one of the best ages of comics. He suffered. He didn't get a job. He was beaten down. That was his life, but we've got to move on. Peter now can have whatever he wants. He can have a company. Aunt May dies. People have relatives who have died, and
there have been 2 times when Peter has tried to accept it. I have no idea why now he has to have her come back. There's even a recent Spider-Man story where she's revealed to have cancer, but this never gets resolved. We just see Aunt May okay again. If they did actually kill her off, I would applaud them, because Peter needs to suffer loss again. He needs something to keep him grounded, to make it clear that Spider-Man's big thing is that he wants to help people. He's not above us. He's just us, trying just to be the best person he can be. The fact that he gets an exception ruins the point of all people being equal.